Another free agent target off the board as Tuch is dealt to Washington. And we also profile Victor, Plante, and Marcus Nordmark before finishing up with a little bit of expansion talk.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. And on today's episode, we got some more trades done as Alex Tuch is dealt to the Washington Capitals and signs an 8-year extension. After that, we will move into draft profiles of Victor Plante, brother of Max Plante, and Swedish forward Marcus Nordmark, before finishing off with expansion talk as the NHL eyes Texas for a second team. Scotty, let's lead off with the biggest news around the NHL that permeated on Wednesday, and that is the free agent market getting even thinner as the rights to Alex Tuch are dealt to the Washington Capitals, and he then signs an 8-year deal worth $10.5 million per season. Scotty, where do you want to begin with the Alex Tuch trade? Do you want to talk about the contract? Do you want to talk about the Capitals? Do you want to talk about what Buffalo got back?
I honestly, we can start with the Capitals aspect because it's pretty much exactly the same thing we talked about yesterday. No, you know what I mean? Like the Capitals angle of this is just they are willing to pay above market value and overpay a little bit in order to make the short term better. They are willing to give up long-term contracts that may not age very well. And that is, Tuch's a great player. And we've talked about Tuch as a profile that could fit on the Red Wings for 2 years in a row now in the offseason. But I think it's pretty objectively above market value. And that's because they want to A, convince Ovi to come back, and B, win if Ovi does come back. So I mean, they are all in. I don't know, how would you put it yesterday? 2014 to 16 Red Wings mode. They are right. They are all in, throwing money at anybody they can to help the current team and window, and we'll see if it works out for them. But yeah, I think it's pretty much just copy and paste what we already talked about yesterday, but just to more of an extreme.
Right. From the Detroit Red Wings perspective, I'm not so heartbroken about not getting Alex Tuch because it was going to be incredibly hard to get him in the first place, because Detroit admittedly is not a destination right now. And that's an indictment of its own right. And that's a different conversation to be had. And that's Steve Yzerman's responsibility to bear. 10 years into the rebuild, 7 of them his own. From Washington's perspective, like you said, this is 13 to 16 where they're trying to keep that window just crammed open. And at least they think they are. If I'm being frank, the window's closed. And they're just being too stubborn to realize it. Again, like the 13 to 16 Detroit Red Wings, where they knew they couldn't win. Does the addition of Kyrou and Tuch make them a playoff team? I think it probably does. How high of a ceiling of a playoff team does it make them? Second round exit, best case scenario. Yes, teams can make the playoffs, and then crazy things have happened. It's happened before. Maybe that's what they're banking on. And maybe they're trying to, by adding Kyrou and by adding Tuch, they're trying to convince Alex Ovechkin for one more go around. And Ovechkin, despite being in his 40s, can still pot 30 goals. He doesn't do anything else, but he can pot 30 goals for the Washington Capitals. I just don't see this ending the way they want it to end, and they're being too stubborn to realize it. And because we've seen it before, and the longer the Capitals put off starting their rebuild, the longer that rebuild is going to take, because it's going to be more contracts on the books that you have to just deal with or buy out, which is going to then exasperate dealing with them. And then you're going to have less and less prospects and picks to then use when you should be rebuilding, because you're dealing them to extend a window that you think you can keep open, but is realistically already closed. Because, Scotty, the teams that typically win the Stanley Cup, where exceptions do happen, right? We've seen it, but the teams that typically win are the ones that are the best. Carolina was the best team in the league, at least in the Eastern Conference, all year long. They went 16-3 in the playoffs. The Florida Panthers won back-to-back Stanley Cups because they were the best team in the league. Albeit one was a wild card year, but everybody knew that team was coming. Tampa Bay won back-to-back Stanley Cups being the best team in the league. Vegas won the Stanley Cup being one of the best teams in the league. The teams that win typically are the best teams, and I don't think this makes the Capitals amongst one of those best teams, and they're going to have to pay the price sooner or later. I do agree also that for Alex Tuch, well, I would have made this overpay if Larkin had stayed because we are desperate for this team to get their window open. For the Capitals, it makes less sense. I understand their logic because they're paying. They don't care about 5 years down the line. Again, 13 to 6 Wings. They're paying Tuch for right now, and it's still an overpay right now, but they are getting a guy who can cap out around 65 points, and that's going to improve the team and likely make them a playoff team.
There are few guys that kind of transcend like logic and reasoning. Like if Ovi was like, hey, I want to come back next year, but only if we're actually still trying to win, then like, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, no, we don't want the greatest goal scorer of all time who we drafted, developed, and has been here for his entire career. We're going to say no to that, and we're going to start a rebuild now. It's like, what's one more year? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have too much of an issue with. We've seen it a lot in a lot of sports.
Yeah, I'm just up on my soapbox because I've been keeping an eye on the Capitals and the Penguins for the last few years because they've been so good for so long, and you can watch the slide, and both these teams are grasping at straws trying to keep their window open when it's already closed. Like Pittsburgh made the playoffs last year and then got bounced in the first round by the Philadelphia Flyers, who are a young and upcoming team. Like these teams' windows are closed, and they're just trying their best to keep them open. But I understand that general managers get paid to win hockey games, not lose them. So I get why they did it. I just, don't agree with it. For Buffalo's sake, they got a third-round pick out of it. Good deal for a guy that already played his last game.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings us to like where we're at, where everything in the league is happening right now. Every other team's out there having fun, and meanwhile,
not us.
We've got really, and it's not surprising. Yzerman keeps things very close to the chest, but the updates that we've been getting are like hearsay and rumor, and there's nothing substantive to it. Like, I have a feeling with the way Yzerman loves his slow burns that it's going to be not before the draft, not before free agency, but like a random August Wednesday when Dylan Larkin finally gets traded.
Part of me, half of my brain is just like, I have no clue what this dude is going to do and what the Red Wings are going to do. I do think from a logical standpoint, it makes sense to do it before free agency opens.
Oh, of course, before the draft, frankly.
The draft, like, if you're looking for a premier pick this year, then obviously, right? But like,
Detroit wants players back.
You can live with not trading him pre-draft. Like you can still get a great return without trading him, but in the next 2 days. But trading him after teams have already started using up their cap and are signing free agents, that I think is a really slippery slope, and you're essentially narrowing your own market. You're limiting. If you trade him now before free agency, there's going to be more teams in on him than after people start putting pen to paper. So to me, I feel like it is in our best interest for it to happen pre-free agency. But again, the other half of my brain is like, I have no clue what this is going to end up looking like.
No, I think you are 100% right. I think both halves of your brain are right. Like, it is in the Red Wings' best interest to get this done before free agency and the draft so that the team has a clear direction of what they're doing and they know what to do with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. Right. But I also know that Steve Yzerman loves the long burn, and it is entirely possible this drags on for a long time and that he's willing to do so. Because, Scotty, here's the thing. If the Detroit Red Wings were in search of draft picks in return for Dylan Larkin, this deal would have happened already. Because I'm sure we have reports of actually teams making offers for the Detroit Red Wings, but they don't want draft picks. If they wanted draft picks, the deal would be done already. I'm sure they could have gotten the 9th overall pick and all those draft picks from Florida, but that's not what they want. They want players, whether it be prospects or NHL roster guys now. And that's what's causing it to drag on, is getting the right team to have that right mix. The other final thing, I have a proposal for you, Scotty. I'll hold it for segment 2. We got to get to a break. I have a proposal of what of a rule the NHL should create to make it so free agency doesn't suck again, or doesn't suck anymore, rather.
Okay.
Then we'll get into our draft profile. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them seem to talk to one another. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing businesses instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true for both sports and in business. Great organizations win together because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. And got to talk to you guys about HIMS. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with a licensed healthcare provider online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Between work, family, and everything else going on, finding time for appointments can be tough. Having access to licensed providers online means you can prioritize your health without having to rearrange your entire day. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonnhl. That's hims.com/lockedonnhl for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonnhl. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. All right, Scotty, proposal to make NHL free agency exciting again, because it's been lame for the last few years because teams just keep trading players before they hit the free agent market to try and get something. They make a rule that you cannot trade expiring contracts after the trade deadline, expiring UFA contracts after the trade deadline.
So, I mean, sure, this issue goes away when the cap stops surging. Like, the free agency returns once teams actually understand how much money they're going to have for more than 2 years into the future, nonetheless, 4, 5, 6. So, I mean, sure, like that certainly would prevent the, sign and trade era that we've been in since COVID. But like, free agency is going to return once teams actually are strapped for money again and not just getting massive influxes of millions of dollars every summer that they magically didn't have, 8 months ago.
Okay. I was just curious what your thoughts on it were. So it was something that popped in my head because this sucks. Free agency literally sucks. Mason Marchman is the prize of free agency right now.
Does. And it's lame. And this is also, like, it's not even like it's it's like the last 4 years of free agency. I've just absolutely, It feels like every summer since we've done this show together, we come on here and we're like, well, it's a weak free agent class. It's because they all are. They all suck. And
right. Yeah,
it's bad for. I said this. I feel like a couple of months ago, maybe even now. It's bad for the sport. Like, I'm glad that the cap is going up, but it cannot keep going up so dramatically every 12 months because then you don't have free agency anymore. So, yeah, I hope that either that happens or I mean your idea happens. Honestly, like that's fine too. I'm not against it.
Yeah, it's like if you don't make the move by the trade deadline, you made your bed. Now you got to lay in it.
Correct.
You don't get to go on a playoff run with your player and then still get a draft pick for him.
Correct.
So, all right, Scotty, our first draft profile today is Victor Plante. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because the Red Wings already got Max Plante, who just won the Hobey Baker with Minnesota Duluth. Victor Plante is a commit to Minnesota Duluth to play with his brothers, and he projects to be around the second round. He's 5'10", just 18 years old. He played with the USN TDP this last year. in which he had 48 points in 57 games and then 18 points in 20 because the EP lists 2 separate rosters for the NDDB because sometimes they play USHL hockey games. It's a little confusing. But Victor Plante, Scotty, what do you like about this player?
Well, I think there's an all-around profile there, which is kind of exciting. Yeah, I mean, it's like we always, talk about the. Is it true? Do you think that hockey has more sibling players than any other sport?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have serious bias just sitting
Yeah,
here.
I guess, yeah, you're looking more into hockey than the other ones, but I feel like more so in hockey than any other of the big four, at least. There is so many siblings coming up through the system and whatever, and but yeah, back on actual track, yeah, I think there's an all around profile here that's really exciting. I think that those are the kind of players that this front office also targets. So I think assuming that he's on the board, that's somebody that that I don't know, the Wings have a history of maybe going after or putting under the microscope. I mean, there's certainly still some questions about the. I guess there's as many questions as there are answers. Like it's just it's
a second round draft pick,
right? It's more of a. It's more of a he's raw and good at everything, and you're hoping to see keep developing those traits. And if you can, then you get a really good all around player. If you don't, then you get kind of a jack of all trades, master of none that maybe is more of a depth piece. So, yeah, I mean, an exciting profile, but just also one that there's probably a handful of guys with that similar profile,
yeah,
in the second and third rounds.
He projects as Elite Prospects has him listed as their 51st prospect. So he'd be a little past where the Red Wings are drafting at 47, but regardless, right around that range. And when you get into that range, we've talked about it, you get flaws and you get strengths. And
right.
It's usually even 50-50, their flaws and their strengths. And his strengths, I mean, he's, despite his size, everything else about him is a pretty heavy Yzerman archetype.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy with a high motor who is comfortable at any spot on the forecheck as F1, F2, or F3. He's not afraid to get into the corner. He has great vision, and his passing game in tight is superb. Like, this is a Yzerman guy written all over it. The problem then becomes is just like every other Yzerman draft pick, it's a high floor and a low ceiling.
How high is the ceiling? Yeah.
Right. And they mention in the Elite Prospects, again, if you can, go get the draft guide, support Elite Prospects. This is a great guide with in-depth pieces on all these players.
Yeah.
The problem with him is they note because of his size, it's hard to project whether or not that would translate to the NHL level. He's 5'10", 165 pounds. He's going to have years ahead of him in college. They'll continue to help him develop his game, but they think it's hard for that style of game that he plays to project into the NHL at a high level because he is slightly undersized. And if it doesn't translate, he probably tops out as a third line complementary scoring winger. And I mean, that's fine for a second round draft pick. That's a great result. But as we've discussed here on this podcast, Scotty, between you and I, like we're at a point now where if you only have second round draft pick, you don't have a first round draft pick. This cabinet's already stuffed with talent. As much as I'd love to have a brother duo of Victor and Max Plante in the system, I'd rather go for somebody who has a much higher ceiling in goal scoring and maybe a low floor and could just completely bust.
So perhaps a Marcus Nordmark.
Perhaps a Marcus Nordmark, who we will talk about in profile in segment 3. But Scotty, before we move on, do you have any final thoughts on Victor Plante?
No, I mean, like I said, good all around player, and does as you mentioned a lot of things right. It truly is kind of just feels like copy and paste a lot of the draft profiles we have done with Wings draft picks over the last 3 or 4 years, right? It just is very, which kind of, I'm glad we're doing a profile because that makes him certainly a candidate to get drafted by the Detroit Red Wings. But there's nothing wrong with the pick. It's just not like the sexiest pick in the world. That's all.
No, absolutely not. Scotty, we will take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk about Marcus Nordmark, probably one of the more boom or bust players of this draft. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots treat your taste buds to an explosion of fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and all on the go. It's a zero sugar treat that's sweet tooth approved. You're going to love how convenient it is, too. It's just a small portable shot that you can grab whenever you need a little pick me up. It'll become your go-to when you want something sweet without going overboard. Get candy-flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or head on over to Amazon. Also, got to talk to you guys about Game Time. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals, the World Cup. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that can help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. When Allison and I visited Denver, we went and saw a Rockies game. They played the Cubs. Coors Field was beautiful, and we couldn't have gotten those tickets without using Game Time. With Game Time, we were able to find which section had the best prices and which seats had the best price within that section. And because there are no surprise fees at checkout, we knew that the $18 tickets we got in the upper deck that had a nice view of the Rocky Mountains were $18 at checkout. No hidden fees. It was fantastic. And we knew that we had a nice view of the Rocky Mountains because they can show you your seat view before you buy. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Scotty, the other profile we want to do for the people here today as we approach the NHL draft on Friday. Well, this weekend. Saturday will be when the Red Wings are actually drafting. But
right,
first round's on Friday.
There's a real chance we don't take anyone on Friday, but
with Dylan Larkin on trade block, there is an outside chance they do.
For sure. And just, trade ups in general, even if, not involving Larkin.
Right. Scotty, next guy we're going to talk about here is going to be Marcus Nordmark. Elite Prospects has him as the 46th ranked prospect in this year's draft. He's a 6'2" forward out of Sweden. So already liking everything we hear, right? He has, as Elite Prospects puts it, one of the highest end offensive talents in the draft. He is a sniper. His playmaking is arguably better than his ability to shoot. And they say he can finish from anywhere on the ice. And he has just insane offensive instincts. Well, you hear all that, Scotty, and you
go,
think,
how is that not a first-round pick?
How is that not a first-round pick? Well, why don't you tell the people about some of the detractors on Marcus Nordmark?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a handful on the defensive end, and that's
handful.
It's really fascinating. We were kind of talking about it before we hit record. I just reading through the profile reminds me a lot of how people talk about, current Red Wings like Amadeus Lombardi, right? Like a guy with, if everything clicks and if the size translates, and that, like Nordmark's 6'2", like the size isn't a factor with him. It's not a 1-for-1, obviously, but just like, you talk about if everything clicks and the offense does translate, he's going to be a great player, but there's so many shortcomings defensively. And it's certainly kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say like deters. Well, I guess it kind of does literally deter, because if he was even remotely sound there, then he would be a first-round pick pretty easily. The other one, if you're going from Red Wings past, like Anthony Ciu is another guy that when he was young, it was like
Thomas Yurko.
Right. It was like, holy cow, the offensive upside is so huge. And then even his first couple of years, you're like, wow, you really see. But when you literally are so bad defensively that you can't play in the last 5 minutes of any close hockey game, it's like, well, then what good is the offense? And so that is certainly a big question mark, but undeniably one of the best offensive profiles in the entire draft, which is going to make him a really exciting case come draft night.
Right. Like he's a pure dangler. All he wants to do is have the puck on his stick and make things happen. And that's something the Red Wings desperately need. But I also find it hard to believe, as much as I'm a reckless fan, I'm willing to take a flyer on this kid just because the offensive upside alone, and hope you can teach him to play a little bit higher, a little bit better defensively. I know that Yzerman will probably look at the detractions and go, no, thank you. Because he is noted to have a low motor. He doesn't get into the corners.
Dude, if you get labeled, who said that? We had somebody on here that said if you get labeled with the low motor, your draft stock just absolute. Was that Boltman maybe? It was like if you once you get the low motor tag, it's hard to shake and it ruins your draft ranking.
And he is noted as a low motor player. He prefers to receive rather than retrieve the puck. So he doesn't get in the corners and dig the puck out himself. He is the one who wants to receive the pass after somebody else has done the hard work. And he has next to no physical game or defensive game. And so while he has produced at an insane clip at all the junior equivalents in the lower tier U17, U18 leagues over in Sweden, when he got a short stint in the SHL, he struggled because in the SHL, you're playing with men who play physical games. So there are huge question marks about the other side of his game, and you can't teach motor. So that, like you said, that's going to kill his stock. But you can teach defensive acumen. Like you can teach the ability to try defensively.
Sure.
He's big enough that he can grow into a physical game if he's willing to do so. So, like, there are things that can be fixed, but like you said, once you have that low motor thing attached to you, it's downhill from there. And again, with where the Red Wings, it is.
Like, who listens to that and is like, man, yeah, let me, you know what I mean? Like, let the Red Wings need to get their hand. Like, the negatives are big detractors, man. I mean, they really are, and it becomes a tough sell, which again is mind blowing considering
the offensive
how
talent
he projects offensively. But like, I mean, again, we've seen it over and over again over the years. You can't do that and have be a premier player at the NHL level. So I mean, I don't think the Wings take him because that's just so the opposite of the profile that the Wings have drafted in the Yzerman era. But somebody that's going to be a really interesting case, no less.
But because you just said that, maybe that's the reason they should take him, because he is the opposite profile. They've taken 1,000 guys that profile with high motors. Like maybe it's just, I'm saying it's unlikely, but man, crap. Maybe you just do it, man.
Sure, man.
Because the high offensive, listen, the ceiling is so high and the floor is so low. Here are his two comparisons, the shades of, as elite prospects put. It's Arthur Kaliev, who's mostly an AHL player. His other projection is shades of Kirill Marchenko.
Right.
So, like, yeah.
No, I mean, that's literally, I mean, we're talking about a guy that at his best could be a premier offensive force, and at his worst is like not an NHL caliber player. Like, does not ever make an impact at the NHL level. And that's a wide range, but it's probably one of the higher ceilings that you will find that late in the draft at the same
time. That's the big point. Is like you're looking for big high ceilings that late in the draft. They're going to come with massive flaws. Scotty, last thing we have to talk about, there was some news that broke that the NHL is looking at Austin, Texas and Houston, Texas as potential sites for the next NHL expansion. What are your thoughts on the NHL expanding again and it being Texas as the potential / probable home?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think all sports are probably going to go through over the next decade a pretty legitimate expansion, just because technologically we're at a point where travel is easier than it's ever been. So logistically they can do it. And yeah, like at the end of the day, it's going to make the leagues more money. And so they're all going to want to do it. I think putting more hockey teams in Texas, I'm not really sure is going to pander to the current NHL fans very much, if at all. But yeah. I if maybe that's their point, and maybe
that is their point,
right?
Because
Like
Gary Bettman's been all about growing the game, and
right, all
Gary
about
Bettman's got
putting hockey in places that traditionally don't have hockey, and that's
and watching it flourish, and it worked with Dallas.
right, and it didn't work with Arizona. So like it's a little bit of a catch-22, I guess, but we'll see. I have no inherent issue with it, and it's going to be fine. And it's going to be a really fascinating conversation when we get to expansion draft conversations again, because you and I,
we've never done an expansion.
Been a part of an expansion. Well, I forget
when did
Utah exactly when that would have happened.
Well, they didn't expand; they relocated.
Oh,
I'm
you're
thinking
100%
about Seattle.
right. And so I'm thinking of Seattle. Seattle would have been, I think Seattle's first year was our first year, straight up.
Founded 2021, and my first episode was the Raymond Hattrick episode, which was 2022.
Right.
So it was right after.
In February of 21. So that was the year Nolan and I did. So yeah, it'll be interesting, whenever a league goes through expansion, there's always a lot of question marks and logistics that you kind of have to iron out. So that'll be somewhat fun, but I think I don't have an issue with it. But I don't know. But I think it's far from a guarantee at the same time.
My hot take is that if you go beyond 32 teams, you have to expand the playoffs.
I don't.
In the history of the NHL, more than 50% of the teams have always made the playoffs.
Correct. I don't think you have to bend the knee to making sure that the history in that specific area
I'm not saying that's
maintained.
I'm not saying that's why, but you're making it every year even tougher to make the playoffs. At a certain point, you just gotta, if you're gonna keep expanding the league, the playoffs are gonna have to expand at some point.
Oh, they will at some point for sure.
What's the breaking point
34 is, for me personally, I don't think 34 is that number.
I think that at some point they probably add an NBA style play-in game. And that's how they start the expansion process.
It's been such a massive success with the NBA. That is 100% happening. And honestly, that might even happen before they
And I'm
expand too terribly much more. That is definitely coming. Yeah.
I don't want any play-in games unless they continue to expand it, because at that point, you force the hand. You have to, if you're going to have this much competition for playoff spots, you got to expand how many playoff spots are available, even if they're 3-game series play-in games to earn the final spot or whatever. I think that's just, as the league expands, you got to do that too. Sure. If they stay at 32, you can leave it as is, but once you get beyond that, I'm just okay, something's got to give here.
Yeah, I think I even if they sit at even 34, I'm still okay with 16. Okay. I think once you got past once you start talking 36 or 38, then I think you're probably right. You have to expand.
This league is exploding. Coming out of COVID here, it's just blowing up, and that's a great thing. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it's a little scary. I don't like change.
Well, it's just scary. I think a lot of people don't. It's scary because it's a question mark. It's a mystery, but it is exciting that in a sports landscape where the NHL in our lifetimes has pretty much always been considered last place of the Big Four, to be in a position now where it's growing at the rate it is incredibly encouraging, exciting, and just awesome to see from people that really haven't seen this sport reach these heights, from a national, obviously in our own lives, yes, but from a national perspective, reach the heights that it's approaching now is really cool.
I agree. Scotty, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.